Welcome to Peculiar Tales, the show where we dive into the stranger things in history, urban legends, ghost stories, and anything else we find, well, peculiar. I'm Dawn.
And I'm Christy. This month we're stepping into the shadow of the silver screen as we continue our newest Peculiar Tales miniseries, The Dark Side of Hollywood. Hollywood has always been a place built on imagination. It is where impossible stories are brought to life, where unforgettable moments are created, and where movie magic captures the attention of audiences around the world. But behind every film are real people, the actors, crew members, stunt performers, and countless others who work behind the scenes to bring those stories to life. And sometimes the story behind the movie becomes far more haunting than the one written for the screen. Tonight we're looking at a production that set out to create something unforgettable, but would become connected to one of the deadliest tragedies in the history of motion pictures. These are not Hollywood rumors or legends. This is a real story of ambition, danger, and the cost of creating the perfect scene.
When we think of the movies we love, we often remember the moments that appear on the screen. The breathtaking landscapes, the impossible scenes, and the feeling that for a few hours we've been transported somewhere else. But sometimes, the places filmmakers choose to capture those moments come with dangers of their own. In the early days of filmmaking, creating something believable often meant leaving the safety of the studio behind and stepping directly into the environment itself. There were no digital effects to recreate dangerous landscapes, no technology that could place actors into a world that didn't exist. If filmmakers wanted to capture the power of the sea, they went to the sea. If they wanted to show life on the ice, they went onto the ice. And in 1931, one film production would travel far from Hollywood to the frozen waters surrounding Newfoundland, hoping to capture a story unlike anything audiences had ever seen before.
So to understand what brought a film crew to the waters off Newfoundland, we first have to look at the film they were making. The movie was called The Viking, an ambitious project by Canadian filmmaker Viking. Rather than relying on actors or studio sets, Frizzell wanted audiences to experience life in the North Atlantic exactly as it was. His goal was simple: to capture real people working in one of the harshest environments on Earth. It was a bold idea to film in the real environment instead of recreating it in a studio.
Much of The Viking had already been filmed during an earlier expedition, but after reviewing the footage, there were concerns that the film needed additional material before it was ready for release. The production wanted more dramatic scenes that would better capture the scale and the challenges of life in the North Atlantic. To complete the project, Barrick returned to Newfoundland in March of 1931 with members of his film crew. They boarded the SS Viking, a working vessel whose crew was experienced in those waters. For everyone involved, it was expected to be another difficult but routine expedition. No one imagined it would become one of the darkest tragedies connected to early filmmaking.
On March 15, 1931, everything changed. While the SS Viking was operating in the ice fields, a massive explosion tore through the ship. The blast was so violent that sections of the vessel were destroyed almost instantly, killing several men where they stood and leaving others severely injured. Those who survived suddenly found themselves in an impossible situation. Some remained aboard the damaged ship, while others were thrown onto surrounding ice, miles from help, facing freezing temperatures with little protection from the elements.
Nearly a century later, historians still aren't certain what caused the explosion. The most common explanation is that dynamite stored aboard the ship accidentally exploded. Explosives were often carried on these expeditions and were used for practical purposes, such as helping clear heavy ice. However, exactly what caused the blast has never been fully confirmed. Some accounts suggest that the dynamite may have been accidentally set off during handling, while other theories have suggested that something as simple as a spark or a discarded cigarette could have been the cause.
In the hours that followed, survival became the only priority. The injured were treated with whatever supplies remained, while those who were able to move searched for others among the wreckage. Survivors stranded on the ice tried to stay together, using pieces of debris from the explosion as makeshift shelters against the bitter wind while they waited for rescue. For many, the greatest challenge wasn't the explosion itself, it was surviving the long wait that followed.
Rescue efforts began as quickly as possible, but reaching the survivors was far from easy. Heavy ice in the remote location slowed every attempt to reach the damaged ship. When rescuers finally arrived, they found men suffering from severe injuries, exposure, and exhaustion. Some have survived the explosion only to spend hours battling the freezing conditions before help could reach them. Others weren't as fortunate. Several victims who initially survived their injuries later died despite rescue efforts, adding to the tragedy.
One of the lasting mysteries surrounding the disaster is the final death toll. Different historical sources report different numbers, with most listing either 26 or 27 deaths, while a few place the total at 28. The difference largely comes down to whether those who later died from their injuries were included in the final count. Whatever the exact number, every figure represented a life cut short.
Among those killed was Varric Frizzell himself, along with the members of his film crew and many of the working men aboard the SS Viking. For the families waiting at home, the disaster was more than a headline. Husbands, fathers, sons, friends, and co-workers who would never return. Communities throughout Newfoundland mourned the loss, and the tragedy left a lasting mark on everyone connected to the expedition.
Despite everything that had happened, the Viking was eventually completed and released later that year using the footage that had already been filmed. While the movie itself received mixed reviews, the circumstances surrounding its production quickly overshadowed the film. Today, the Viking is remembered less for what appeared on the screen and more for the devastating events that unfolded behind the camera. 28 people, if you include those who died from their injuries later, all in the pursuit of catching the perfect scene.
And because it wasn't like another ship went into them or they ran into an iceberg or something like that.
Right?
It just randomly exploded.
These ships did carry explosives all the time, and it is a possibility. But to not see an iceberg coming or a ship coming or something like that where you're bracing for this impact and it to just happen so quickly that men were thrown onto floating ice chunks.
It's not like, okay, so if they were using the dynamite for their everyday work that they would go on so that, you could break through that heavy ice. It was a must.
Yep, absolutely.
Like this was just part of the job.
Exactly.
This is terrible part of the job.
Right.
My heart goes out to those people.
Right. And it was a very unique thing that Varric tried to do, right? He was right in the actual cold waters and the snow and the bull and the things that they were doing and how they survived out there. He wanted you to feel it when you watch the movie. Now, I will say this. When it says mixed reviews on it, most of the compliments for the movie were about the visuals, were about the scenery and what he went out there to do. The problems that they had were that A, they felt the love story in it was too overpowering, and B, they didn't think that the acting was very good. Now, I watched part of the movie, and I will say this, the acting is not great. To be fair to those actors, this was at a time where they first started doing talking films. So this was relatively new to a lot of these actors. They were used to overacting their body language and not having to say these lines that
Yeah.
went with it, right? So you definitely get a feel for that in this movie. But when they released it, one of Varrick's friends in Hollywood, he actually does a whole opening scene to it, talking about, the tragedy that unfolded during the making of this movie, which was kind of interesting to see that they took the time to do and didn't just release the movie and try to sweep it under the rug.
That almost makes it even more tragic.
Well, it
That he
does,
didn't
yeah.
have to go back to Newfoundland at all.
Not really. But he wanted those perfect scenes. He wanted people to feel it, and they didn't feel it had enough of that in it.
Terrible. Like, it's just tragic and heartbreaking because how many families are affected? Now, we don't know if the dynamite would have went off without his film crew. We have no way of ever knowing that, right?
No, absolutely.
Was
because
that ship destined to blow up that day? We don't know.
Right, because they don't even know for sure why the dynamite went off. The biggest working theory is that either a cigar or cigarette butt got discarded and ended up in with the explosives and causing it to go off. But it could have been caused by a lot of things.
I feel like that you got the dynamite there, that there's got to be some kind of unwritten rule, some kind of...
Right. Part of the story that I had read was that Varrick was actually telling people they needed to be more careful around the dynamite and watch where they were discarding their cigarettes.
Like his film
and he
crew,
was
you
like
mean?
writing up like a post-it basically to put up on the ship. But none of that was ever confirmed. That's kind of just a story that ended up inside this story because there's no proof that that's actually what had happened. Nobody said, oh yeah, he was going around for days telling everybody to be careful. That was never actually part of it.
I feel like if anybody would be the captain or the...
Right. Not the film guy that's just like, hey, by the way, you should all like be a little bit more careful out here. I doubt it.
Like, excuse me, Hollywood friends, but we do not smoke over there.
Right.
We do not light nothing over there. You will exit that area of the ship and move towards here, please.
Please and thank you.
I feel like it would be the regular crew that would be schooling them on that.
Well, you would think. But then do you get complacent? You work around it all the time. You just do things out of habit and you don't notice it. But it really could have been anything. It could have been a bad charge. It could have been a spark from something else.
It's just
could have been a
so
dozen
random,
things
huh?
that set it off. Yeah. But unfortunately, the story of the Viking is not the only time that the pursuit of creating the perfect scene has come with devastating consequences. Throughout film history, there has been other productions forever connected to tragedies. Some other films connected to deaths during the production include the 1969 movie Shark. Now, this one here actually bothers me. So during the filming, a stuntman, Jose Marco, was killed during a sequence involving a shark. There was supposed to be safety netting up. It wasn't up properly. The shark got through and attacked and killed him. But the reason that this becomes even more crazy is that they later used images from the attack in the film's publicity.
Stop.
Yeah. So they used the actual attack imagery in promoting the movie.
Is it just me or does that sound cold?
That's terrible. Terrible to think that somebody passed on your movie set and you were just like, throw that up. That'll sell tickets.
I don't understand it because...
What?
Like, it's not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's just...
Because it's so shocking that somebody would do that. You don't know how else to react other than be like, no, that's not a thing, right? That can't be real.
Who does that actually? And then somebody's going to be like, oh, okay, Dawn, we looked it up actually, and it was so-and-so.
We don't need actual names. We're just saying that's crazy.
Need actual names, no. But I mean, come on.
Right? Like, think of the person's family. Have a little respect for that person and their
That all right
family.
there could be an episode for us.
Right? It
Right,
is.
people, you may hear of that later on in life.
Hollywood,
How the
man. Dark
family
side.
coped with that. Because how do you explain that to the family?
Right?
I would be so upset. Like, I can't even tell you if it was a family member
Devastated.
and you're seeing images like that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how much of the images were used. I
Any
don't
part of it
know
is
if it was
bad.
exactly 100%. I don't
Distasteful.
disagree with
I
that.
mean, using the words distasteful doesn't even touch it.
No, but
My
that's the thing.
Lord.
Regardless of whether it was all of the images used for publicity or whether it was one specific picture that was used in one incident, that never should have happened at all.
Oh my God.
And then in 1982, the Twilight Zone movie, one of the actors and two child actors were killed during a helicopter stunt sequence involving special effects.
You had 2 children on a helicopter? Am
Yeah.
I the only one that thinks that's a terrible idea?
Well, I mean, they
Did
wouldn't
it
be the
say how
first
old they
kids to
were?
be. I didn't see how old they were, but they wouldn't be the first kids to be on helicopters or planes for that
I
matter.
get that, but if you're doing like stunt work,
Right?
come on.
Yep. And you have
And what year was this?
three deaths in
82.
82.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
most of us know the 1994 Crow movie with the actor Brandon Lee,
Yeah.
who passed away after improperly prepared prop firearm discharged during the filming. Again, tragic. I don't understand the discharged firearm situation. Like, do we not just use fake boop? Nothing actually comes out of it. How does somebody, what are you putting in these?
Like, I remember some parts of this,
Mm-hmm.
story. And I don't know if anybody was charged, if it was an on purpose
Well,
or if it was accidentally. But like you said, who accidentally puts real bullets in a fake gun?
or
Or
what kind of fake bullets are you using? Like, I get that you're going for an effect, but shouldn't that effect not touch? Like, you should be able to point that at somebody at damn near point blank, obviously not point blank, but damn near, and it not hurt them. Like, the whole thing is.
so how do you even allow real bullets on a film crew?
Now, see,
Like
this is
set.
that's what I'm saying, right? Because I don't know if they used real bullets in shots that people weren't in and somebody grabbed that gun by accident instead of the one with the fake round in it. Again, I'd have to look more into this because I vaguely remember
This
this
isn't the first time
story.
though, or this isn't the only time, I'll say that.
No.
This isn't the only time that something like this has happened.
Well, Rush in 2021 is another one where someone was killed with a prop firearm. Helena Hitchens was killed when a prop firearm discharged during the rehearsal set.
See, these things happen and they're tragic.
It's absolutely tragic. I get that you can't account for everything and some things are going to happen, but you would think on things like movie sets, your standard for safety would be so high that it would make this very hard. And then you also have like Midnight Rider in 2014, where the camera assistant Sarah Jones was killed when the production crew was filming on a railroad track and she got hit by a train.
What?
So they were filming
You didn't see the train coming?
well, they were filming on like this bridge portion, but by the time they grabbed all their gear and started running, most people went up against the sides or managed to get off in time. She wasn't able to get off in time. When she tried to get over to the side, the suction from the train pulled her in, was my understanding of the story. Just trying to outrun a train.
Oh, wow.
Why? Again, I don't know. Maybe there was lots of safety protocol put into place and something just got miscommunicated. Maybe they had the time schedules for the train and thought they had time. I don't know because I don't know that whole story. It was just kind of bits and pieces that I had read. But it happens in movies, obviously more than we like to admit, that people get hurt or worse, killed.
And what's sad too, though, in my opinion, is that when something happens, this tragedy of whatever it might be, you know, a shark killing somebody or a train running someone over or somebody accidentally shooting somebody, which may I add would weigh on a person for the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
What kind of
What kind
personal
of
hell
damage
would they
does
be
that
going
do
through?
to the person who shot the firearm
Yeah.
with no intent, absolutely none whatsoever, of hurting someone?
Yeah. But you know, is that those people are now remembered for this tragedy
Mm-hmm.
and not really for either the work they've done their whole life on this film crew set, maybe they're a
Mm-hmm.
worker, or maybe the work they've done if they were an actor or an actress.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's how it happens, right? It's tied, and this is largely how they're remembered.
Exactly. When we watch a movie, we often remember the moments that appear on the screen, the breathtaking scene, the performances, the stories that stay with us long after the credits roll. But behind every film are the real people, the ones who create the sets, operate the cameras, perform the stunts, and step into places most of us would never see. The story of the SS Viking reminds us that these men never set out to become part of a tragedy. They went to Newfoundland to capture a story of survival, never knowing that their own story would become one remembered nearly a century later. So the next time you watch a movie, take a moment during the credits. Think about the names scrolling across the screen and think about the countless people who helped create what you just watched. Because behind every scene is a story, and sometimes those stories are the ones that deserve to be remembered the most. And as always, thank you for joining us on Peculiar Tales. If you enjoyed this episode, leave us a comment, rating, or review wherever you listen. It really helps support the show. And be sure to follow us so you never miss a new episode. And until the Peculiar calls again for another tale, bye for now.